Now let's talk about evaluating whether you should have partners with whom you should do the show or guests
This video is brought to you by EpiPies Academy.
for your show, or should you do a solo show, whatever your show might be. And the shows are so different, right? Like you can have an interview-based show, you can have information, you can have entertainment. It's so different. So I don't know what yours is, but try to apply the concepts that I'm going to share you to whatever your show idea is. So just you doing the show, no guests, no partners. It's the easiest because you can do everything at your own pace, at your own time, without being dependent on anyone or anything. Because when you have a guest, especially when you have a new show, you have to constantly find good guests, schedule times with them that's good for them, that might not be great for you. And then when you have a new show, you're going to have to constantly schedule and reschedule, shift the time. It's very time wasteful. And some guests are actually bad speakers and bad presenters, and they're not that insightful. Even if they're fantastic professionals and leaders in their industry, doesn't mean that they're good teachers or presenters or willing to share true insights. And the level of their insight, they're the guest. They will make or break your show. So there's a lot of risk in every episode. So you might have some audience member who likes a few episodes in a row, and then you have a bad guest. Well, that's going to make your engaged regular viewers stop watching. So it's actually really risky. So of course, like I mentioned, if you don't want to do a guest-based show, it's all on your schedule. You don't have to deal with any of the scheduling. The things that guests do give you are big name guests, help with the marketing. For example, if I told you that I'm doing a show, you'll say, okay, Alex is doing a show. But if I said I'm having Mark Cuban on my show, wow, you're probably much more likely to watch or at least take interest. So if the names draw attention, they are a part of your marketing, not to mention that a big name guest might promote the show on their social media, etc., etc. So they're going to help you directly with promotion, but also their name is going to draw attention. And of course, they can cover additional topics. For example, I only know a certain amount of things, but my guests might know things I don't know. So it might give your show a wider range of topic coverage, which actually might be more interesting for your audience if the presenters are in fact good. And of course, you yourself will learn from the guests and form relationships with them long term potentially. Whenever I've done interviews, I actually learned a lot very often from people that I've interviewed. So now let's talk a little bit about partnering, maybe having a co-host or co-creators. They help because they encourage you when you're down. They pick up the slack. Let's say if you go on vacation or if you have a busy period or you need time off, they can carry on the show. Of course, you don't want to make that a regular thing because that would be taking advantage of them. And by the same token, be careful people don't do that to you. And they also help you with quality improvement and brainstorming. Like, for example, sometimes you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what's bad about the show, but they will be able to kind of see it from a different perspective. And often you'll make much faster quality improvements in the show because you'll have that brainstorming partner. And that's incredibly valuable because the quality of the shows is really one of the most important things about it. And together, you'll be able to do more. So you kind of like split the work until you get more done together. There's a saying, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, do it with people. That's essentially the idea of partners. The problem with having partners is that if you just jump into a business relationship, any business relationship, with show, a business, anything, with a person you don't know, that's risky because maybe 2 weeks in they're gonna quit. You don't know until you work with them. So ideally, you should only get into business relationships with people with whom you worked successfully before, or enter a relationship slowly so you can test out how you work together. And if you are working well together on maybe little videos and it's going well, then you're like, oh, maybe a show now makes sense because we know how we work well together. So these are things to think through when you're thinking about, should you do a solo show? Should you have guests on it? And should you have a partner or should you do it by yourself? Those are the thinking points for your show.